Hey everybody, it's RJ here with Kevin again with another Bad Dinner Guest Bible study. It's the working title, at least I guess. I keep accidentally doing that. Anyway, Kevin, it has been a while, obviously, since we've done one of those. I'm a little sick, but at least we can get back to the table. How are you doing?
I'm happy to be here. Yeah, you said it. Like you said, it's been a while. I'm glad to be back because we left off at a pretty interesting part. We talking about some Noah, and this is one of the few Bible stories I'm sure that everybody is at least partially familiar with. So I'm sure we're gonna have a lot to talk about in a short chapter. As far as the name goes, I'm feeling, I got snake bit by the Twitter poll last time, but I'm thinking we should put it up on the Bad Dinner Guest Twitter. We need to just come up with 3 to 5 candidates and just let the people decide.
Okay.
But
I want to set a goal for Twitter followers before we do that.
okay, all right,
Possibly. So
okay.
don't want to make too much sausage.
We'll check back on that. But the for now we're just the
we're studying the Bible. Okay.
Angels Advocates. There's one. I'm throwing that one out there.
Angels Advocate. Okay, yeah. You can just start making working titles to throw on the
Just
Twitter.
all kinds of puns. Yeah, I'm just gonna start lobbing them. Speaking of lobs, God lobbed Noah some knowledge of a flood, upcoming flood. That's where we last left our heroes.
When we last left our heroes.
So I hope that I say that as sort of a refresher. We haven't said our disclosure yet, but always check back to episode 1 if you want the lowdown. But no sermon, a little bit of satire here. We're just having an open discussion about the Bible. And today, an open discussion about Noah's Ark and the Nephilim.
Which you blew my mind a little bit in going over this because I didn't remember this mentioned at all, or at least being defined. And I bet if I would have asked my Sunday school teacher, I was thinking about it, I was like, I bet we asked the Sunday school teacher what those were. I bet she either said she didn't know or that they were just like Adam and Eve. I was thinking about it because anytime you came across a word, you're always like, what is this? That's how you learn new words. So it's not like if we were reading this, which we did read, we'd go person to person, So I would have had to come up, but you blew my mind. It's pre-internet too. You get away with a lot more I don't knows before the internet.
Yeah, and also not to mention. Well, I'm about to mention. I don't know why I said not to mention, but consider the fact how many people have actually read this Bible and how many just receive the sermons throughout the week. So words like Nephilim might have been just overlooked during the Sunday sermon. On
the slideshow, it would have been 3 little periods, children of God, 3 little periods are in parentheses. It would have been described for you.
Right. So there's that. And we just, I wanted... That was last chapter 6. We talked about the Nephilim and all that, and I just wanted to. We did some follow-up research because I know we were kind of up in the air when we talked about it last time, but we did look into it, and we discussed the fact that they specifically pointed out the difference between sons of God and daughters of men, and what I mention this again because I'm looking forward to David and Goliath. Because I want to see how Goliath is described. Because, as you know, RJ, I do a decent amount of conspiracy research.
I thought you were going to say shooting slingshots.
And also, well, yeah, that also, yeah. We've got we used to have 2 big trees in the backyard. But so, as far as Goliath goes, I want to see if he's described as a Nephilim. Because I've seen that claimed before. In Ancient Aliens type documentary, that is, when they discuss the Nephilim, they use Goliath as an example. But so what we have seen here, just to refresh, is that the Nephilim were the product of the beautiful sons or the beautiful daughters of men and the sons of God, which it seems to be implying that, for argument's sake, we'll say angels. Or maybe it were demons. Some sort of sons of God were mixing and mating and having children with the daughters of men. And what we see right after that is a flood. in which only Noah and his family are going to survive. Spoiler alert! Sorry, I didn't get that out in first. But
dude,
do
we even need to do the episode?
I ruined it. It's ruined.
Yeah, I guess we forgot to kind of put out the premise that we are going chapter by chapter through the Bible, in order, reading it. So this is how we ended up on Genesis 7 tonight. If you're just somehow popping into this because of whatever clever title I'm sure Kevin will come up with for it drew your eye, we just happened upon this chapter because this is where we're at.
This is and it's an interesting spot. And I'll end my little Goliath spiel, but I look forward to that because what we're seeing here is all of those supposed Nephilim were wiped off the earth. So if that conspiracy theorist that I heard holds true, where they again mention Goliath as a Nephilim, then it's going to raise some questions as to, well, how long and how often are children of God still mating with daughters of men? I mean, we don't see too many giants outside of the NBA and the NFL, but
Angelina Jolie pre-op. Oh, that was bad. That was a little wrong. I'm trying to think of other children of God, possibly. Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise is 5'8" in reality, though, so he's definitely
age.
Morgan Freeman. Morgan Freeman, spoiler alert, is God. I think he's played it.
Hilarious?
It's Topolmancing, dude. He's played it so many times that he will eventually just become.
He just finds it funny now. He's been doing it for years. Before there was movies, he was just in plays.
just out reading books in the library to people to blind people.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think he's really he's going to become, when one does what God does enough times, he becomes Morgan Freeman.
Ted Cruz's father, quite possibly. He doesn't seem to have aged much.
I've seen claims of Ted Cruz being a demon, so maybe Ted Cruz is one of these, and maybe he's the product of a jinn mating with a human.
What is a jinn?
Ooh. Jinn are essentially the ancestors of genies. It's where the genie myth comes from. So they were thought of spirits that neither good nor bad. Some were mischievous, some were good, some were bad. Sort of like broad strokes, think of Roman mythology and the way their gods interacted. You had Norse mythology. You had Loki, the mischief god. You had Hermes in Greek mythology. You had so sort of along those lines. The jinn were, and then Aladdin, a genie. Yeah. That's based off of jinn.
I got you. I didn't know that. I've only played the card game.
Oh yeah.
But I don't even think I've played
it's spelled out with DJIN. Oh. Yeah, it's a wicked dope name.
There's a genre of music, DJENT.
Okay. They're probably
actually.
all in the occult.
No. It's from the noise the guitar makes, I guess. That noise.
Allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. But,
that's the exoteric meaning. You got to look at the esoteric, which is hidden knowledge. So
we're gonna get to the Bible reading eventually, I promise. But
you can read the Bible anywhere. It's only here that you get flavor.
That is perfectly true. But I was gonna say, we were talking earlier about how Christmas is kind of probably, almost certainly been hijacked from a culmination of other religions. You're talking about the Nephilim being descendants of God that roamed so back when my religion existed and all of these gods were around, this is when that happened. It just kind of, I just kind of occurred to me in the moment, but it would be really easy to sell somebody on this is the new religion because it's more current, which is, I guess, how you got Mormons.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I'm with you as far as sort of making that argument. If you were writing this and part of your attempts were to bridge the gap and to convert people, then by throwing in something like the Nephilim, it sort of says, oh, look, see, we reference your story, so your story is also true. It's just, it was a smaller part of ours, and see, now you get it, right? Yeah. So I kind of see what you're saying there.
Well, we see Jesus briefly referenced in the third installment of the trilogy. So it just seems to grow. They seem to all borrow from each other, as they grow, they have to. I'd like to look more into that, actually. But
well, we'll speed read through this so we can get to the Quran.
Perfect. Speed read the Bible. That'll be the next cast.
That'll be 24 hours.
No.
Okay.
We'll start a Kickstarter. I don't know what goal we'll have to set for that to happen.
I get $19. You can get a lot.
Stay up for 24 hours.
Yeah, you can get plenty. You can get
$19 for a day of your time.
You can get a 6-pack of Red Bull and at least a box of Slim Jims for that. And now I would.
But my cigarettes are $7 at the corner store.
Oh yeah.
$27.
We'll get it.
Still like less than $1 an hour. That is a great rate. Those are between slave and like undocumented employee wages right there. That's a great value.
We'll just pass a hat around and things will be fine.
How do you pass a hat around the internet?
Oh, I was talking about the church across the street.
I forgot about that.
Will we tell them
get
why?
in on it.
And we just beg them not to listen? Because I think at this point they would be upset.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't even think we've read a line yet, which is, this is the first.
We've read Nephilim.
This is the first. That's from the last. We're still reviewing the last one. This is,
Noah.
it's not our fault that Genesis it tries to put you to sleep at times. So I feel bad about some of those last episodes
So
where
elementary.
Hegepath begat
Oh,
Yeshua and
how
no,
we
sorry,
got
I'm
caught
just
up to here,
yeah.
Yeah.
Those were some rough ones. So.
which isn't even caught up to here, but it's kind of caught up. I don't even know anymore. It skips around the timeline of the entire, like, we're 7 chapters in, and it's like a Ted Dekker novel, just skipping all around. It's confusing me because, like, the first 3 episodes we have questions, and we're like, oh, we're back in the future now, so I guess they're getting answered for us. Don't we look retarded?
Yeah, and there's a flashback.
Yeah,
And just like, it
doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it like this.
Me either. And if creative writing professors had existed back then, they would be just screaming.
No.
They put this in the first drafts belong in the trash can, bud. No, but
You just lost the rest of the church over there.
I'm done. We're done. We're done. But no, and that's no, because essentially what
God's
I'm saying
work is
is
perfect.
what I'm saying is this couldn't be fiction,
You were
because
God's
if it were
first work.
fiction, it would be bad
Do you belong
work.
in the trash can, Kevin.
That depends on who you asked and when.
Yeah, I've talked to several people.
Yeah.
Never mind.
That's
Moving on. We need to start saying the Lord's Prayer or something before this. Did you ever do in church like a chant, like the same chant? Praise God from whom all blessing, that kind of thing?
I mean, there was music playing and we called it a song.
Okay, well, the Methodist church, the Baptist churches I went to, and all the other churches I went to that do it, but the Methodist church, they have 2 songs that they sing every Sunday, and they start and end with them, and they're really simple, and they're basically a scale. And I don't know, it'd be kind of funny. I don't really have a good singing voice, but I think it'd be kind of, we need to come up with I need to find out what it's called, and I'll just type in the lyrics of it, and it'll tell me what it's called, but I can't think of it right now.
As far as my experience though, because we didn't have chants like that in my the Pentecostal church that we had songs as children that we sang more repetitively, but I feel like I was in a bit of a transitional period for the Pentecostal church. When I first started, it was like all organ or piano and a choir, and by the time I was leaving the church, it was a lot more of acoustic guitar and occasionally electric guitar. They were moving more towards band. They were going more for the youth right around the time that I was leaving the church. At least that's what it felt like. It was less the old school music and the same sort of repetitive song where you just sing basically a chorus the entire time, and it was a lot different. But no, there weren't really any sort of chants now, but what my church did have was the speaking in tongues, in which large groups of people would speak apparently like ancient Hebrew. I had an odd experience with that as a child. It was one of the things that started to lead me off that trail. But anyway, that's a story for another day. But yeah, so we didn't have any chance or anything like that. But yeah, we got to throw some song. I nominate some Third Day as some intro music. But so do you want me to get us started here with good old Gen Sev, as I like to call, as the kids are calling it these days?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, let's do some Gen stuff.
All right. Gen Sev. The Lord then said to Noah, "Go into the ark, you and your whole family, because I have found you righteous in this generation. Take with you 7 pairs of every kind of clean animal, a male and its mate, and 1 pair of every kind of unclean animal, a male and its mate, and also 7 pairs of every kind of bird, male and female, to keep their various kinds alive throughout the earth. 7 days from now I will send rain on the earth for 40 days and 40 nights, and will wipe from the face of the earth every living creature I have made."
Dude, we placed guesses on how many days and nights it would be and how they'd measure it. I think we were both wrong.
I believe we were. Yeah, they just 40 days and 40 nights.
But that's how long it rained, not how long it was flooded too.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Like just 40 days of rain could flood the whole world. I mean, I guess it's like
If it was raining everywhere, yeah.
simultaneously.
Bye, followers.
There's some interesting followers. I don't like that word in this podcast.
I'm trying for puns.
I know. I'm just
hard.
the ultimate stick in the mud today. Speaking of that, back to the ark. So we had a couple interesting. So what do you think it means when they say clean and unclean animals, and why are birds just different?
I think we're gonna find out in the book of laws which ones are clean and unclean, very specifically.
Do you want to lay down a couple of guesses? Because I want to at least. The only one I feel really confident about. I bet a pig is an unclean animal. I'd bet
shrimp, anything with hoof and foot.
Oh really?
Yeah. So like horses, I don't think you're allowed.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean horses will just.
It's a certain. They literally they go by the type of foot style they have. And
that's weird.
That's how they. Yeah. We'll find. I remember that much because when I was losing. I guess definitely losing my religion for sure. I don't know.
That's what the song should be.
Yeah, you got it. Score. I'll write that one down as soon as I find my pen. But yeah, it was like kind of looking into the stuff and trying to make it make sense. So I kind of like read some of that shit to be like, well, maybe it just meant this. And now you're like, oh, okay, they were really just being real nitpicky for some reason. And yeah, we'll get into it. They will tell you how to circumcise, how to slaughter. We're gonna find some chef tips. It's gonna be a wonderful experience. We have a long ways to go, Kevin. A real long ways to go. But
well, that's good because if not, I was gonna have to YouTube self-circumcision, and who wants to do that?
If it's in the search history, it was a friend. So
Gen 7, verse 5. And Noah did all that the Lord commanded him, naturally. 6. Noah was 600 years old when the flood waters came on the earth. And Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives entered the ark to escape the waters of the flood. Pairs
Smart
of...
move.
Yeah. Smart move. Was that what you said?
Yeah.
Okay. There's an echo in here. Verse 8. Pairs of clean and unclean animals, of birds, and of all creatures that move along the ground, male and female, came to Noah and entered the ark, as God had commanded Noah. And after the 7 days, the flood waters came on the earth.
Wait, what? Oh, so it took him that many days to get everything on there.
It took.
And after the 7
It doesn't
days,
say how many
the
days
flood waters came on the earth.
Yeah, so I guess he just had the animals on the ark for 7 days, just like waiting it out. Kind of like Evan Almighty, when everybody's like, haha, there's no rain. So it probably felt pretty, it was probably an awkward week.
Yeah.
Like,
also, just hear me out here. If everywhere flooded and you happen to place your ark at the high point, everything that was escaping the flood would naturally come at you. And it would look like a freaking miracle. Just think about it. Like, everybody in the city, like, rushing away from floodwaters. They want to go to wherever's dry. Wherever's dry is going to be higher than where the water is. So they're all going to be rushing the same way. So you could see some shit like that, and I happened to been a really good surveyor.
Well, but to be Angel's advocate, it was only the certain animals.
Title idea.
Yeah. They're only the allotted animals that, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying based on the story, if you're a literalist, then you're, only the chosen animals made it, but also you could just be, it could be sort of an explanation. But you would think a couple of people might have tried, but also who knows? But I think that's a good point. I had to be the counterbalance there.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
Because that's what
had to deny those mother lovers. I try and keep it clean for this. I know we're not censored, but it having Bible.
Given the content, I get it.
I do apologize, folks, but it's going to happen.
Old habits are like
kids,
they're like John McClane.
Are we on 11?
Yes. No, we are on 13.
Ooh, lucky number 13.
Yeah.
Alrighty, I think I can try this. On that very day, Noah and his sons Shem, Ham, Japheth, together with his wife and the wives of his 3 sons, entered the ark. They had with them every wild animal according to its kind, all livestock according to their kinds, every creature that moves along the ground according to its kind, and every bird according to its kind, everything with wings. That was a weird sentence. Pairs of all creatures that have the breath of life in them came to Noah and entered the ark. The animals going in were male and female of every living thing, as God had commanded Noah. Then the Lord shut him in. So God closed the door on this boat, but they have spent a lot of verses repeating that all of these animals came to him and got on the boat. They are beating that in. They're literally beating millions of dead horses right now.
It was 7.
But I'm talking about
Also, they're beating that number. You notice that? I've always wondered that. It never. I don't see the explanation for God's obsession with the number 7, especially when you consider why would God even know what a number was or a day was?
Computers.
That's a human construct. That's one of my biggest issues with this whole thing. Time is the way we measure things. We had to invent that. And it started based on the times we saw the moon and got more and more intricate. So this whole idea, I think, is just someone doing their best to try to describe it, even if you are saying, okay, so by someone I mean Moses. This is Moses doing his best to describe it, because why at that point in time would God know what a day is? Why would he even have a concept of it? I mean, I guess he does. He calls it.
Isn't it okay?
It is.
Shem, assuming that they each only had one wife, it would have been 7 people in the boat.
Well, it does say all the children, right?
Does it? Okay. Oh, his 3 sons. Never mind. Okay.
And
Yeah,
with his
I was
wife
right.
and the wife, so it would have been 8 people.
Yeah.
You were close. Well, he called. Well, so he
Or
did.
at least 9.
Yeah, so I had to correct myself because I knew it was in there. Genesis 1, verse 5, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night, and the evening and the morning were the first day. So he does call out, but again, that's all that they has to say about it. And to me, that's odd. And to me, that
making sure no matter what, you get across pairs, every living kind. And then, if you don't understand every living kind, it means everything that flies, everything that crawls,
everything with wings.
Get
Yeah.
this language. I don't know how you're transcribing it, but I need you to do this. You need to build a ship. Stuff's going to hit the ground for 40 days. It's going to be terrible. You need to get these mother lickers on board. This is all you're going to be able to fit.
I feel like to the devout religious who are already gone at this point, but mother liquor probably isn't hardly any. Also, but I love it because it reminds me of old Greg. And if you're listening to this and you're still here, you've probably watched old Greg.
Yeah, that's definitely where I got it from.
And then God said, "What you doing in my waters?"
So that was 17.
Yep.
Dude, that's my next tweet.
Okay, so are we on? No, so we're on 17.
Yeah.
All right. Did you want to read it? I can.
If you're tired of it,
I'll keep. I'll trudge on.
Got it.
For 40 days, the flood kept coming on the earth, and as the waters increased, they lifted the ark high above the earth. The waters rose and increased greatly on earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the water. They rose greatly on the earth, and all the high mountains under the entire heavens were covered. So again, a little bit more of that from the Department of Redundancy Department.
And these are like individual verses repeating what the last verse said. It's because you take snippets. I mean, your preachers do. So like, this is literally, they could pick any from 17 to 19 to give you the same message.
Yeah,
on any given Sunday.
I don't understand why the same book that explains the creation of the world we live in 31 verses has to repeat itself on, oh by the way, everything had wings, and oh, by the way, the boat was floating. Oh, hey, did I tell you the boat was floating? And it's just
40 days. Did I tell you? 40 days.
Also,
40 days.
Check out this dude. He lived to be 800, and then he had a kid. That's all you need to know about him. And then that kid lived to be 800. That's all you need to know about him. Oh, and this one dude, Enoch, he lived to be 300, and he didn't get to die. He just went up to God. But don't worry about why. But by the way, did we tell you that the boat floated and it had everything with wings on it?
And it rained for 40 days.
And also it rained for, yeah, it's odd to me.
It is.
So what do you think? You think it's like a translation issue? Do you think it was we need the lines to match, so we'll just repeat ourselves when we see stuff we don't want to? Yeah.
Tinfoil hat on. This is way more important information if you're trying to like pass down what might happen if you see something coming than how everything occurred. So you want to make sure no matter how this gets translated that message gets across. That's the only way it makes sense to me. Like, of course, this is the first time I've read it in years or maybe ever. But yeah, I'm like, instantly what I try and do is be like, well, what is logical? Like, what state of mind would I have to be to ever do something in this manner? And that's the only thing I could think of is that, like, I want to make extremely certain that you understand what I'm trying to get across here. And the 40 days keeps getting repeated, but its type and style of animal gets repeated. I mean, everything, ridiculous amounts. And Noah doesn't really get repeated. His sons don't get really repeated. The amount of limbs they have don't get repeated. Their nature with God doesn't get repeated, but that stuff there keeps getting repeated in a little bit different ways. And like each time, you know how like when we string a sentence together, we'll describe something 6 different ways in the same sentence. It's using one sentence for each way because it doesn't want that shit to get mixed up either. So it doesn't want you to think, okay, he meant specifically feathered and with 3 wings. You know what I mean? So he wants everything with this. Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. Otherwise, yeah, I don't get it.
Because none of it, like, they glossed over why the earth earned this and spent more time describing the birds to you.
Right. They didn't really tell you
than they tell you
no.
what humanity did to earn this fate. And I would think that would be... Now, granted, there's a lot more book coming. So we're going to learn a little bit.
7.
We're going to learn a little bit more about what humanity has done since then. But I feel like you shouldn't have glossed over why God decided to flood the entire earth, because would you not want to avoid... You're talking about, and what you're bringing up a good point. Okay, they wanted to make sure that if something like this ever happens, they have a plan. That's not a bad point. But I'm thinking, like, if that really happened, why are you not taking the time to tell us how to avoid that?
Maybe because there is no way to avoid it. Okay, so man's nature is sin. Sin led to the earth being destroyed. I'm using quotes. We need video.
Yeah,
we
were in an air quote sound.
So,
like,
okay, we're all doomed from the start, and this is what they did to save humanity the last time. That's basically the message that they're getting across so far. We're all doomed from the start. There's no hope. This is what you do when God decides to kill everything. God being the universe, God being random chance. I don't know, but to me, again, if I was writing it, that's the state of mind I'd have to be in. Like, I just have to convince these people in the easiest way ever that they don't have any hope. The world is terrible, but you have to keep life moving forward. And this stuff kind of befall man. And it's so by chance God can just decide, "Oh, you're all too wicked." And there's never been a point in history where people weren't, quote, wicked. When can we look through history and everybody was all good and happy?
Yeah, it's like what God didn't want to flood the world when Henry Ford was building tanks for Hitler. Like what?
Or, yeah,
it was getting pretty bad,
killing people throughout all of Europe. And anyhow, yeah, exactly.
Or when the Native Americans, I'm just like,
Rwanda.
That's all you got to say.
Before we got to the Native Americans, and they were just killing each other in terrible, terrible ways. I mean, it's
makes you wonder, like what were they doing? So to play devil's advocate a little bit with that, if I'm gonna put my big red tinfoil hat on, if you believe this was established, a man-made construct to sort of establish power and control over a mass majority of people by controlling what they believe and teaching them what to believe, what better mechanism than that absolute fear?
A lot better than this, because unless you're a master arc builder, this doesn't really give you much power, because this is just a random dude that was listening to his head that decided he was going to build an ark and save all of humanity.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying, is that the fear being that you, as the person receiving this message from the Lord, know that you can't do that without God. So, and God could flood the earth at any time and you'd just be stuck with it. So you'd better behave and you'd better not do these things that we're about to tell you not to do.
He'll flood the earth.
Or he'll flood the earth. And unless you're, Noah.
I guess it's harder for me to jump. If I bought this and somebody came to me and said, "You better listen to all these rules or this is going to happen," I'm going to look around me and be like, "Even if I listen to these rules, we're all screwed." Like, there's no convincing me.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a possible mindset. But I mean, very, very, not nearly as popular, at least back then. Especially, like, again, like we're looking at it now, where, figuratively speaking, we're closer to, like, we can create and do things.
Put the ship together. Everybody had 7 dudes back then. They had 17 kids.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I mean, they had to have been in North America where the wood existed.
Yeah, that's right.
Already more industrious. So I think they could have done it, Kevin. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to knock you down.
That's fair. That's fair. That's what this whole thing is about.
I'm sorry. I hope I didn't lose your point there.
No.
Really.
We are
everywhere today.
We are on solid ground, unlike poor Noah.
We join our heroes.
Yeah, what were we on? We'll just say 19 because I feel like we've read this before, but that could just be the nature of the chapter. 19. They rose greatly on the earth, and all the high mountains under the entire heavens were covered. The waters rose and covered the mountains to a depth of more than 15 cubits, and covered the mountains. Every living thing that moved on the land perished. Birds, livestock, I love how every living thing that moved on the land perished, and they start with birds. It's just funny to me. I'm not like knocking it, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it makes me giggle. Birds, livestock, wild animals, all the creatures that swarm over the earth, and all mankind. Everything on dry land that had the breath of life in its nostrils died. Every living thing on the face of the earth was wiped out. People and animals and the creatures that move along the ground and the birds were wiped from the earth. Only Noah was left, and those with him in the ark.
That's a really easy point to get across the last line. But again, they spend a huge segment there. What, like 8 verses repeating?
Like this, how do I put this in?
Everything's dead.
This chapter felt like a Marvel movie to me. Like I came into this chapter like, oh man, this is gonna be great. We're done. There's one line left. The waters flooded the earth for 150 days. We were wrong about that. So, but he's just chilling in the boat for 150 days, and that's where we leave our hero for now, to be continued, as far as that goes. But this again, like, I feel really let down because I saw 24 verses. I knew it was talking about the flood, and I thought we were gonna get something. we really, because the whole time I was sitting here like, okay, well, as an adult now, the last time I was told this story, I'm not certain if I was tying my own shoes yet.
Yeah.
So let me see what my adult mind can put together with what's given to me directly from the source. But nothing hardly is given. I know the birds had wings.
Yeah. And that they roamed the earth and were killed first in the series of animals.
Yeah, the first thing to die in the flood was the birds, apparently, which it makes a lot of sense. Again, I'm just kind of splitting some hairs there, but it's good they slipped some humor in.
The 15 cubits, like, he just only topped off the earth. It's just like 20. It's literally a diving pool over the mountains, 23 feet. Over
Really?
the mountains is all that. Yeah, that's what the citation there. I forgot to pull this up while we were reading it on the YouTube, so sorry, guys. You have to read on your own. But yeah, it says at the bottom of the page here, 15 cubits is roughly 23 feet or 6.8 meters for our listeners that aren't in the great state of Ohio. Succession. Anyhow, but yeah, isn't that kind of funny that he only topped off? Like, it was just enough water to get over top of everything.
Like, almost like he was doing it that way on purpose. Like, yeah, just like the perfect amount to flood.
Just, you know how like in the cafe they make that like coffee in like their own cup, and you're like, there's no way that's all gonna fill up my cup. Like, that's not gonna be nearly enough, and then it fills it straight to the brim. You're like, oh, good for them. Good on them. That's basically what God did, except he had a little left over.
He was an excellent bartender. Yeah.
Also, if there was giants on the earth, you would need that full 23 feet, you would think, to make sure you ground them good.
Yeah, that's kind of, we're on the same page there. I was thinking about that. 23 feet, how tall were these giants? Because, it'd be sort of, now I guess that's where the 150 days kicks in, because no one, giant or not, I bet, can tread essentially a world of ocean, even if it's only, you know what I mean? Like, even if your feet are only 2 feet above the bottom of a 6-foot pool, like, you're 5'11" in the 6 foot end, like, you're not going to tread water for a month and a half, or even more than a couple of days. So he really made sure with that.
How long is 150? What is that? A half a year? That's a half year.
Yeah, that's about it's
like 5 or 6 months almost.
That's it's about roughly 5 months, right? Yeah, if you just give it 30 days. Yeah, so. Hey, he made you stay until the job is done.
I did Google the highest mountain in Europe, because I guess I should type in the Middle East. 18,000 feet in Europe, just to kind of like see maybe how high the waters would have been, even though we know it was in America.
Do we want to? I just had a random thought that I wanted to spit out there. Does the flood do anything? I want to research this, but off the cuff, would the flood do anything to make you think about the Flat Earth Society again, about the Flat Earth argument?
Well, like, I was going to ask you where you thought the water went.
Yeah, like, how does the whole globe get flooded by 23 feet around? Like,
I was going to ask you where'd the water go when it was done.
Yeah,
and that's what confused me a little bit there. But the Flat Earthers, well, there's just edges that just fell off. Easy. Real easy.
Well, then okay,
so you have a bowl, right? God sends in the extra rain clouds, fills everything up, and then you just knock something out of the side, and it pours out.
I really wish we had the visual.
Yeah. We should just do an animation of this entire episode, I think.
So I don't disagree with that at all, for the record. But this raises an interesting point with I'm glad that they had that little aside down there, because I would have, if not, like most people, 15 cubits, yeah, sure, whatever. There's a measurement I don't recognize without looking up, so I'm just going to keep reading and assume that that's enough water to flood the entire globe. And when you think about it, it doesn't make sense. Now, I've also heard an argument that it was oh God, I'm going to get crushed on my geography here. Let's call it the Mediterranean Sea, where it wasn't necessarily that the whole world flooded, that it was that region flooded, and that's why there's, the Dead Sea. There's a salt lake over there, and and so there's a certain section, whatever. There's a certain belief or theory out there that the Great Flood probably wasn't a worldwide event. It was more of, or that maybe just the entire world wasn't wasn't populated or
Right.
something. Maybe that could make a little more sense. But as it stands, where with us is this giant, perfectly circular ball floating around. I don't like 23 feet of water to cover the Earth that I've seen, and we live in the Midwest.
Yeah.
You know, but
what
like
is the global warming estimates for the ice caps? Like if all of them completely melted.
I would imagine it's more than 23 feet around. Well, I don't know. Maybe not, but it's just this warrants just doing some science math, which normally isn't fun, but it's kind of interesting. I want to see.
It's been Googled before, so there'll probably be an answer. It would be 70 meters of the sea level would rise about 230 feet. So yeah, that still would not be enough.
And
Enough
yeah,
water.
and that's in those projections, the whole world isn't encompassed in water, is it? If
No,
if
I'm about to
theoretically,
watch the video here. We won't put it on the YouTube so we don't get pulled down. But it's a 2.5 minute long video, so I'll just find where it
You
says
need
it.
a website. Why not do it yourself?
Oh, thank God for mute though. Also, that probably didn't come in I have desktop audio turned off, I think, so we should be safe. Anyhow, yeah, I would. Okay, so my guess is that Ohio would still be safe if all of the ice caps melted. That's my guess.
like I bet Denver would still be around,
Definitely.
or
Denver
New
would still be-
Jerusalem.
Yeah. Dude, reading this makes you think that I make so much fun of them.
That Garmies might be something we should invest in.
Are those the Mormon sex underwear?
Yes, they are.
Okay, thank you for telling me about those. So it brought the word Mormon to mind when you said Garmy, because that shouldn't help anybody. But yeah, it kind of makes you think maybe the Mormons were on to something, coming and being like, oh, this. I could see how you could draw those conclusions.
Yeah,
It wouldn't
it.
read the Book of Mormon.
Yeah, we're gonna have. I don't know nearly enough about what the Mormons believe outside really of that and Garmies, but yeah, it could be so.
And Felching, or was that just the same episode?
No,
That was just the same episode. Wasn't
yeah, that was just the same episode.
it? I knew that.
Yeah, he did. It was a great one. Check out if you're still here, check out Spitballin', and you'll find out all about Garmies and other things you or definitely would be interested in. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great transition there into. They can check that out on Bad Dinner Guests on YouTube, right?
Yep.
It's Bad Dinner Guests. With an
Also on
S at the end.
SoundCloud
Which is probably where we get most of our listeners from to begin with, isn't it? The SoundCloud.
or Stitcher, anywhere but
Stitcher.
Podbean right now. We're working on that. Google Play,
I got you.
Stitcher,
I got you.
TuneIn,
TuneIn.
Radio.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's cool.
all over the place.
Shanghai's screwed.
Yep, Shanghai's out. Beijing, Tokyo.
Tokyo looks like they'd be okay.
Looks like they're standing firm.
Who would think Japan would be fine? That's not stuff you hear when they tell you all about how terrible global warming is, that Japan's still going to be there. There's no way. This has to be.
This is interesting. So for reference to those listening, we're watching a video on YouTube called What the Earth Would Look Like If All the Ice Melted, published on February 18th, 2015 by
Business Insider?
Business Insider Science. And it's looking like a lot of the world is still around.
Yeah, a
San
lot of us are
Diego's
gonna
gone.
survive.
Like California's
Literally, San Diego's just going to look like Florida. Or San Diego. That part of California is going to look like
Seattle will be gone.
Florida.
Florida, Miami will be
That's the
gone.
miscreants it was talking about.
Charleston.
Like, literally, it gets rid of the worst parts of America. This flood is sounding more and more right. Washington's gone.
New
York's
York,
gone.
Boston.
Looks like Ohio's fine. Literally, America looks so much better like this. Look at it. Look how much smaller Mexico is. Canada's still doing okay. Oh, that was terrible. But seriously.
I don't know. I think we got some listeners back on that. But so, okay. But to make it relevant to what we're talking about here,
That's all the water on Earth existing in the oceans, basically.
and it's
in the
still
water
not
table.
flooded. So
Yeah.
how did we get to where everything was flooded by 23? Like that, it doesn't even make sense because sea level exists, and you have cities like New Orleans that are below. You have cities that are below
There's
sea level,
mountains that are higher
and all that. Yeah. So, but I mean, this flat description of by 23 meters, it doesn't even make. It says, I guess if you take it literally, it says even to the tallest mountain.
At least 15 cubits, basically.
And then 23, so 23 feet above the world's tallest mountain. Like, Yeah.
It's
So
not even wiping out Ohio. Not when everything melts, at least. So we're not Ohio. We're not the world's tallest mountain here. I ain't been to Mount Everest, but I'd have to assume you're fine there.
So it's interesting. Like you said, where did that water come from, or where did it go? I guess is the more important, because we know where it came from. God did it, but where did He did it just all evaporate? And how did that evaporate in 150 days? Again, outside of the simplistic, well, God did it. They choose to explain things at times and not. So that will be interesting. That's what we'll be looking for in the next episode, which we'll be talking about, life after flood, how Noah survives without FEMA, and just, how God got the water out, because that will really be, and I my bet is going to be that we don't hear much about it.
I'm going to be on page with you there, but it might just be because I haven't heard anything about it.
Or we might have a full chapter just about like the wind blowing and the description of the wind and how it blew from the west and it was good. We may find it. I doubt it's going to be equally as repetitive, but I feel like I was being a little hyperbolic there. But we've seen a lot of repetitiveness here, and it's confusing to me.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I'm definitely on page with you there. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to this for tonight?
That I am all set for the evening. It's been wonderful to be with you people again.
Check us out, baddinnerguest.blogspot.com. I'm RJ with 60 Grit. Kevin, you have at my boy.
Yep, at my boy Kev on Twitter.
Okay, I didn't know if that was the one I was supposed to give out, so I stopped.
Yep, that's the one.
Perfect. And at Bad Dinner Guest on Twitter. That's the important one. Thanks, guys.